Hello. So today I want to continue on a little bit with the white paper and different thoughts and views. Um, on the last month's white paper stuff, I just wanted to calm things down. There was a load of stuff out on the media, um, scaremongering, in my opinion, because we need to give any new thoughts and changes a chance, and we need to look at it with an open mind. However, having said that, I do want to now put another angle on things that we need to consider and making sure that we look at it in an even playing field. And I'm trying to give a balanced approach to certain things. But I was reading an article on the special needs jungle that really sort of caught my eye, and so I do need to share this with you. So this is been inspired by a lady called Frances Akinde. And we wanted to share some of the important reflections from the Special Needs Jungle team, and particularly from Frances herself. She's an experienced SEND educator, a former special school head teacher, a neurodivergent parent of 5. So her perspective offers a powerful lens into the role that many families encounter but few fully understand. So again, we're talking about the Senco. And it is for moving forward, and even for now, this is really quite pivotal. And the stuff I have done on Senko's previously still holds, but I think that this is a really good insight into what the future may be bringing. So the word that's going around now is gatekeeper, and it can bring up strong images. So gatekeeper or doorman is a person standing at a door deciding who gets in. Someone quietly determining what level of service you and your children are going to receive. So in schools, the special educationals need coordinator can hold a similar position. They can be the person who opens doors to support, referrals and understanding, or, and we're going to use the word unintentionally, delays or blocks access to what a child needs. I'd say we'll use the word unintentionally. We're going to be kind because there are a lot of schools that do unintentionally do that, but there are schools who intentionally do the delays, the blocks to access, etc. So what we don't want to do is put blame onto anybody. It's about understanding the reality of a role that sits right in the middle of a system under pressure. So Frances shares that across all her roles in education, being a Senko was her hardest. So why? Well, Senkos often carry huge responsibility. They have limited authority, but high expectations from all sides. They're expected to advocate for the children in the school, support the staff, manage the school systems, communicate with us parents and families, and navigate local authority processes, all the while often feeling unable to make key decisions without permission. It's no surprise that stress and burnout are common, and that many experienced SEND professionals are leaving the field. So, the white paper is changing the landscape, and potentially changing the landscape. Not right this minute, but it's going to potentially. So the recent proposals for the SEND consultations are reshaping that landscape, and the heart of these changes is 4-tier model of support. So you remember I spoke about school action plus, and then statements. Well, they're a very similar thing, but it's a 4-tier model now. So I've got universal, quality first teaching for all. Then I get targeted, additional support for emerging needs, whatever that may look like. Targeted plus, more structured intervention. And then specialist, involvement from external professionals. So it's not really a 4-tier, it's probably a 5-tier, because maybe after all of that and our children are still suffering, maybe then the EHCP, but there's no mention here at all. So the Sencos now will be expected to oversee support across all these tiers, not just the most complex areas. Ensure early or earlier identification of needs, and lead on consistent evidence-based support. This makes the role even more central, but also more demanding. And if, like you shuddered, or sorry, if like me, you shuddered when you heard evidence-based support, because schools are not very good at providing evidence-based support at this minute in time. Will they improve? Who knows? But again, it is something that I find quite scary. So what does the Senco need? The reforms also expand the Senco's leadership responsibilities. They're now expected to shape inclusive classroom practice, train and support staff, monitor quality of provision, and ensure consistency across the school. And at the same time, new funding and services like the Inclusive Mainstream Fund and Experts at Hand aim to bring support earlier. How? But here's the reality. Earlier access to support also means more coordination, more decisions, and more pressure on the Sencos. And one of the biggest challenges ahead is that schools will be operating in a two-system simultaneously, because we can't just drop EHCPs and the existing support. That's still got to continue, and has to continue whilst we do that. We saw that with statements and EHCPs. And how is the Senco going to be able to manage this if they do not have the support and input needed from the head because of their own pressures of what they need to get through? So they're going to have or working with the current legal system, which involves EHCPs, and then the new proposed tier system. But not straight away. I just want to make that clear. That's not happening straight away. This is further down the line. So when we say that, the transition period, what they're talking about is 2029 to 2030. 4 years away. It creates uncertainty. It creates uncertainty for the schools, the Sencos, and the families. And again, the Senco sits right at the centre of it all. So at its best, the gatekeeping word, it means needs are identified early, support is put in place quickly, families feel heard and included, and services work together. But under pressure, gatekeeping leads to delays, inconsistent decisions, inequality, families having to fight for the support. And this is where things become especially important. The proposal also introduces digital individual support plans. If it sounds familiar, it should. It's basically the return to the old individual education plans, or what is running now. So it is called, instead of an IEP, it is called an ISP. And they're meant to be clearly recorded as a child's needs, show what support is in place, include the child and family voice, be regularly reviewed, and keep everyone consistent. But we're supposed to have that now. So why should we saying this is coming in? It doesn't make sense. This is already what's supposed to be in place, and now they're saying the white paper says this is what we're going to do. So done well, this could reduce confusion, improve communication, strengthen consistency. Again, that should be here now, and we are seeing it's not. But just by saying this in the new white paper, what's going to make them change it, because it's what they should be doing. It's in the framework, it's in the SEN code of practice. So why has it not been done, and what's going to make them change and do it now? And here's the thing, it's time and capacity. The time and capacity to use them properly. They have bias, pressure, real world impact. One of the most important points raised is that gatekeeping decisions are not made in isolation. They're shaped by workload pressure, system limitations, personal assumptions. They're normally unconscious, but there is the unconscious bias, should we say. And we already know from the national reviews that exclusion rates are uneven. Some groups are disproportionately affected, and bias can and does influence identification and support. This is why cultural competence and reflective practice are essential. So there's 7 ways to strengthen the system. You see, I did try and keep a balance, but it does get to sort of say, oh no, not more stuff, and this is something else the school got to get on top of, and they won't. To make gatekeeping fairer and more effective, Francis highlights key points. She says, give Senco's proper time, authority and support. I'd agree with that. I think a lot of Sencos want to do the right thing, but I think they do not get the time or the authority, the autonomy to make the right decisions, because senior leadership or the head, or both, but the Senco is normally part of the senior leadership team, are not allowed to make decisions on their own. So if we can give them the proper time and the authority to make the right decisions, to give the right support for the right children, that may work. Second one, keep practice rooted in the SEN code of practice. The SEN code of practice is a legal, it's not just a legal document, it's what all schools should be following. So why keep practice rooted? It should be there already. So why is that there? She makes a good point. Nobody, when you talk to them, they try and quote the code of practice, but only highlight the areas that will back the school up as to what they are doing, not look at the overall sort of how we blend them in together to make sure that the child's voice, the parent's voice and the needs are all brought in place. They look at, oh, that means that we can do this, and they look at the loopholes within that. So if we keep rooted in the SEN code of practice, we have to make sure that we're using it properly, not just keep it rooted, because they will look for loopholes to turn around and say, yes, but. Use the ISPs as meaningful working documents. IEPs are meaningful working documents. How is that going to change? I think when you read this, all we should be doing is enforcing what's already in place and making sure they do it, rather than spending all the money they have spent to put these things in place and sort of say, which again is going to come down to the individual schools and heads. So stop me from being negative. Sorry. Create consistent systems across schools. Build cultural awareness and understanding. Use multiple sources of evidence when making decisions. Track patterns to ensure equality and accountability. It says, and she goes on to say, that the system's not removing the gate, it's just redefining it. So it's redefining, but you can redefine it without spending all this money on white papers and then trying to change a system that doesn't need changing, it just needs enforcing and making people accountable. What's not in here is properly, and I mean properly, train heads of school. The head teacher, the headmaster, the headmistress. They need the training on what it is that is needed. Not that you must follow our school policies. What is the need of the child? If we give that training to the heads and the senior leadership, before we give it to the staff and the teachers, then most of this will fall into place quite easily. But for some reason, that way of thinking is silly. I get laughed at when I say that, because we need to keep control of the school, etc., etc. And we've been in education for so long. I think we know what we're talking about. I just wish you would listen. That's all. So, Senkos will still play a crucial role in deciding what support looks like, how early it happens or doesn't, and how consistently it is applied. The difference is that these decisions will now happen earlier and more often within schools. I would like to think that will, although it says will now happen, I think it should now happen, or will happen in 2029. We would I mean, they can put in overnight that all of these things will happen under the current system, if they just listen to the parents and listen and watch the child and how they are presenting both in school and at the end of the day when they're going to their parents. The transition into and out of school is really important to watch, as well as what's happening in the classroom. So, Francis goes on to say, this is not about blaming Senkos. It's about recognising the complexity of the role, the pressure they are under, and the influence they have on children's lives. So the real question is, how do we create a system where Senkos are empowered to open doors every time? Because when a gate is open, children are understood sooner. Families feel supported, not dismissed, and outcomes improve, not just academically, but emotionally. And that's what we're really all after. I beat my head against the drum. I'm on about this all the time. Whenever I get to talk to a Senko or anybody in school, these are the things I talk about. But they're ignored. So, if this resonates with your experiences, you're not alone. It's exactly what conversations should look like. Then it matters. It matters that we talk about these things, and why we continue to share insights that help you better understand the system and how to navigate it. So I don't want this to come across as let's feel sorry for Senkos. Senkos wanted to be a Senko. Let's be clear. They wanted that role. Majority. I think there's a couple of people that may not have wanted it, but on the whole, Senkos, if you're a Senko, you want that role. It's a brilliant role to have, but you have to be strong. If you know what the role of the Senko is, please do it, and please don't be afraid to fight for the children you're supporting. And if that means upsetting the head teacher, if they are anything of their worth, they will listen to you, because that's what you're getting paid to do. They can make decisions and then turn around and say, we cannot do it because, and then you need to relate that because back to the parents. Not hide it under, well, we don't see it in school. It's not. There's not enough evidence or things like that. Be honest with parents, because if you're honest and we get to understand why you can't do it yet, let's look for things we can do that's not going to cost the school anything. Talk to me. You know I can give you advice to give to schools to help your children that is not going to cost them anything if they just listen. So, if you feel I've been a bit harsh, apologies. If you feel I've been a bit too lenient on Senko's, apologies. I do have fights every day with Senko's, not physically, but trying to get information across. Having to talk to parents about the complexities of maybe why certain things are done, and taking away the need for the reliance, I think, on IEPs, ISPs in the future, and EHCPs. because I think sometimes the things are written correctly. It's just the way they are handled, and we will be covering this on a further video. But for now, thank you very much for listening, much appreciated, and I look forward to seeing you on the next video. Thank you for listening. Bye bye.